Hey guys, what's going on? This is Adharva here, and in this video we're going to look at NextAuth. NextAuth is an authentication library specifically built for Next.js that allows you to easily integrate authentication in your Next.js application. This includes a lot of different modes of authentication such as login with Google, login with GitHub, login with Facebook, login with Twitter, and many more. You can find the list in the documentation. It also enables you to create your own custom modes of authentications like username password authentication, email password authentication, and so on. You can do a lot of different things with NextAuth, and NextAuth is now opening up to a lot of different front-end and back-end frameworks. So let's look at what we are going to build today. So this is the app we are going to build today. Either you can log in using email or password, or you can log in with Google. So let's try logging in with Google. So I had already accepted the consent, so it didn't really show me again, but if you were new to it, it would show you the consent, and if you accept it, then you would be redirected to this page, and it literally says my email address here and my name. So I can click on logout and I can go to don't have an account, and here I can sign up for a new account using only my name, email, and password. So I can just say test account. The email can be test@test.com. Remember that we haven't really implemented email verification here, so any email address you put in will go through. Email verification is something that you can implement on your own. This is just an introduction video to NextAuth and on how you can integrate it in your Next.js applications. So in password, I'm going to just put 1234. I know it's insecure, but just for the sake of tutorial, let's click on, this should not be login. We will change it. This should be sign up button. So let's click on login or sign up. And yeah, it says welcome test account. Your email address is test@test.com. Now if we log out and log in with that same credentials, so let's do that test@test.com and 1234. Let's log in. It should let us in. It says test account. Your email address is test@test.com. We log out, and if we try some other thing here, so like test@test.com, and we have an invalid password, just like 123, and we try to log in, it says incorrect credentials provided. I know this toast could be a better, we could have used something better instead of just browser alerts, but that really isn't the point of this video. That's why I haven't added it. So yeah, this is running a SQLite database. So we have a SQLite file, and we are using Prisma to handle it. And if you want, you can use any sort of database, and you can simply plug it into Prisma, or there are different kinds of adapters we're going to look at here. And we are going to just breeze through documentation as well and look at what your options are. So here we are in the NextAuth documentation. So as you can see, it shows the introduction about NextAuth.js, and there are a lot of different things you can take a look about. But what I want to specify to you is the providers. So providers are basically the websites that provide you the data for the user. So for example, we had login with Google. So Google is a provider here, and we can find it somewhere around here. Google, yep. So you can enable login with Google by going to Google Cloud Console and getting the client ID and client secret, which we are going to do in this video. So stay tuned for that. But other than Google, there are a lot of different providers you can take a look at. So if Discord is what excites you, you can go with Discord as well. It's going to be super easy to integrate these, and NextAuth is going to handle all of the difficulties of these providers behind the scenes, so you don't need to worry about it. The second thing I wanted to let you know was about the adapters. So adapters are basically interfaces to databases. I don't know if that's really the correct way of saying it. Basically, adapters allow NextAuth to communicate with your database to change or to basically add or update user data. So here you can see a lot of different adapters. You can even see Drizzle and Prisma and even MongoDB. So in this video we are going to use Prisma, but if you feel comfortable with any of the other adapters, feel free to go for it. You don't really need an adapter if you want to do sign in with Google. You just need an adapter if you want to store your users in a database, or if you want to implement sign in with email and password, because the user data needs to be stored in a database. So in this video we're going to use Prisma, and without wasting any time, I think we should start building. First of all, let's create one Next.js application. So to create it, I'll say pnpx. You can even use npx if you want to. So I'm going to say pnpx create next app, and it's not going to Visual Demo. Visual Demo was the previous video we created upon generating React components using AI, and we are going to use components we generated from that using in this video. So if you want to take a look at that video, card would be somewhere there. I don't know. So yeah, let's create the app. We're going to name it NextAuth. Let's enter. Now this will ask us for a few details. We are going to use TypeScript. We are going to use ESLint. We are going to use Tailwind. We are going to use SSC directory. We are not going to use app router. We don't want to modify the import alias. We are just going to let it complete, and I know I haven't updated my pnpm, but I didn't really notice it until today, so I will do it as soon as the video is completed. So let's wait for this to complete, and then we have to also install some packages. Okay, so it's already complete. Let me bring up the list of packages we need to install. Okay, so let's go to YouTube. Oh, sorry. Let's go to NextAuth, and here we're going to install pnpm install. The non-regular dependencies would be auth/Prisma adapter. So this is going to be the package for Prisma adapter for NextAuth, and auth is the package for NextAuth. So and this is going to be the adapter. So if you're using some other adapter, you can just go here and check the package that you need to install. So for example, for Drizzle, you need to install these packages. So let's go back and let's start installing a few things, and then we need, of course, the Prisma client. If we are using Prisma, then we need the Prisma client. Then we also need bcrypt because we will be encrypting some passwords here and there. Then I don't think we need any more regular dependencies here, so we are just going to install this, and the next set of dependencies we require are the developer dependencies. So let's wait for this to complete, and then we will proceed with the dev dependencies. So pnpm i-d to specify that these are going to be developer dependencies. We need the types for bcrypt because they don't come with the package. Then we need .env CLI. We use this so that we can use Prisma with our own env.local file, because Prisma's default environment variable file is .env and Next.js default env file is .env.local, but we don't want to have separate environment variables files, so we are just going to use .env.local, and to configure that we need this package. Then we need Prisma, and I think that's all we need. If we face something later, we can just install it. So I'm just going to install these, and then we are just going to open this project in a code editor and do our first stuff. Code dot and pnpm run dev. Let's do this. Let's have this on full screen, and I also want to see what are the recommended steps through the documentation first. So if we go to the documentation and getting started, you will see it's asked to install the package. So I hope we have installed it. Okay, we haven't installed the main package, and okay, how foolish of me. I forgot to install the main package I created creating the video about pnpm i NextAuth. I hope this doesn't take forever. Yeah, it's done. So yeah, we have installed the main package we created the video for, and then we are going to have this configuration file, basically an auth API handler, and then we are going to have the session provider. So let's follow this step by step. First of all, we are going to copy this code snippet. You can get it through the documentation. Let's go to the code, and then we are going to look at what it does. So in the pages, we need to create an API. We already have the API. So here we are going to create a new auth folder, and here we are going to have a new folder that catches everything. New file, basically a new route that catches every route sent to the children of this route, if you know what I mean. NextAuth app.ts, and we're going to have this here. We don't really need the GitHub provider. We are going to get rid of it. For now, we are going to keep the providers empty because we are going to set up Google, and then we need to have the session provider. So let's go back to Edge and let's see what we are going to do. So we need to have this. So we are going to copy it, and we are basically just going to replace the app.tsx file. Okay, so instead of copying it like just like a fool, we are just going to have it in the TypeScript way. So this is the more TypeScript way of doing things, and I just realized that script was for JavaScript, and I shamelessly copied it into a TypeScript file without even realizing. So yeah, basically this is a session provider that allows us to use the hooks provided by NextAuth that save us a lot of time, and you can use those hooks in your entire application. So yeah, that's done. And now we also have this, and we are not going to set up Google provider just yet, or even the email and password one. First, we're going to set up two things. We are going to firstly set up the Google projects, and we are also going to create an auth consent screen. Secondly, we are going to configure Figma and our SQLite database. If you want to use any other database, feel free to do that, but in this video we're going to use SQLite. So yeah, so let's go to Google Developer Console and set this up. Okay, I have a ton of projects here, and as you can see, I also have the NextAuth tutorial which I used to research about NextAuth basically. So let's create a new project and let's give it a name, NextAuth YouTube. And I also have to remove this project because you guys could simply grab my secrets and use it on all of the bad or shady places. So I just need to remove this after this video is done. So let's create it. It's creating the project. Let's wait for it. It really should not take a lot of time. Yeah, so let's select this project. We need to go here. Let's see, where is it? APIs and services, credentials, and we need to create a new credential here. So remember to configure the auth consent screen. So let's do that first. We are going to choose as external because I'm pretty sure most of the apps are going to be external. For any reason, if you want to use internal, go ahead with that. App name, so let's NextAuth YouTube. User support email, it's just going to be my email. We are not going to have a logo. Application homepage, privacy policy, we don't need to have any of that. We just need to have the email address again and save and continue. Auth consent screen should be done. We are not going to set up any scopes. We are not going to have any test users because that's simply not needed. Let's go back to dashboard and let's go to credentials, and we are going to create a new credential here. So we are going to create an auth client ID. Application type is web application. Web client 1, it's fine. The JavaScript origin is going to be, and this is the one which is going to have the URL here. And the authorized redirect URI, it's pretty confusing, but if you look at the adapters here, they should have it somewhere. I saw it somewhere here. So let's go to adapters. No, not basically adapters and providers, I'm sorry. Google. It says that authorized redirect URI should have this URL. So if you are using production, you need to put in your domain, but we are on development, so we're just going to use localhost. Let's create this. And we have the client ID and client secret. So make sure you create your own and you don't use mine because I'm going to delete it anyways. So let's copy both of these. So first of all, let's copy the client ID. Let's go to VS Code. Let's create a new .env.local. Hopefully it's, I'm not sure why git ignore is not working, but I guess it's fine for now. So let's have the first one, which is Google client ID, which is going to be the one we copied, and then we are going to have Google client Google secret, which is going to have Google secret. Let's go back, copy and paste it. Let's save this, and yeah, I think we should be done here. The next thing we are going to do is set up Prisma. So let's go to our terminal and let's put in pnpx Prisma init. Let's wait for it to do its thing, and then we are going to have a new Prisma folder, and we're going to have a schema.prisma file. So if you go back to the adapters page, you should have let's go here, adapters and Prisma. You should have the schema that we need to use. So this is the schema that we need to use here. So let's copy this. Let's go back to VS Code and let's paste it here. Okay, we don't need this. Let's save this, and we don't need this, I'm pretty sure. And now we don't need any shadow database URL here. And we are going to use this SQLite. So SQLite doesn't support this db.txt, so we're just going to remove it and it will just work fine. But if you're using some other database, it might be necessary for you to leave it right there. So yeah, now we need to create our own SQLite database. So this is the environment variable. So before we can do anything, before we can use any migrate commands to create the database, we need to first set up how Prisma uses our environment variables. So first of all, let's add this environment variable. So database URL should be file, and it should be dev.db. You can give any name, and yeah, this is what we need. Now we can simply go to a package.json file, and we are going to now use the .env package we installed, and now we're going to manipulate the scripts here. So these are the scripts we need. So this command basically means that you are telling that .env.local is the environment variable file we want to use, and then this command should be run, because Prisma by default uses .env file as the environment variable file, and we have .env.local. We need this package to have these environment variables in action. So yeah, this is basically all we need, and now we can simply do pnpm migrate dev. So pnpm migrate dev, and now it created a SQLite database, but it doesn't have anything, and we need to make our changes. So we need to give a name for a new migration. So think of it as a git commit. You need to give a name for every migration. So let's give it a name of init. Very intelligent commit name. So yeah, now our database is done, and we also have a migration. Now how do you verify? Okay, so first of all, we need to git ignore this dev.db so that it doesn't get pushed. So dev.db should be ignored at all times. Yeah, perfect. And probably also dev.db journal. Not debug. Dev.db journal. Yeah, we don't also need that. Okay. Now what we can do is we can use Prisma Studio. So if you look at the package.json, we have Prisma Studio, which allows us to look at the database. It has a UI, and we can quickly glance at the database, how it's looking. So pnpm Prisma Studio. Perfect. So it has account, session, user, and verification token as per schema, and yeah, we have all of these things. So we also need to add a field here. So for the password, for email password authentication, they don't already have a password field here. We need to have a password field, so we need to modify the schema here a bit. So let's go here and say password, and that should be a string. Perfect. And that should be optional because sometimes people will log in through Google and they don't really need a password. So let's save this, and now we can go back to our terminal and we can run the migration. So we can just do migrate dev, and now we can call this migration as added password field. And now we can do Prisma Studio again, and you can see password here somewhere. Yeah, here. Perfect. Now you can simply add and remove stuff here as per you want. So while testing, if you want to tinker around, you can do it here, but we don't need to do any of that. And now we can go ahead with our Google authentication first. Before doing anything further, I forgot one step. We need to configure Prisma in such a way that it works with Next.js. So we need to create a new folder here. So here we are going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it server. Everything related to server, any helper files will be here, but here we only need one, which is prisma.ts. And if we go to our edge and we go and search some things, Prisma Next.js configuration, you can find it somewhere like here. There is a script here that we need to use. Why? So you might be asking, why is the script? I already have a video on using Prisma on Next.js. So if you want to look at it, you can find it in my channel, or it might also appear as a card here. But in short, the reason is that we don't want Prisma to create a lot of different instances of database, and this helps keep everything in place, and there will only be one Prisma instance and only one database connection instance, so you don't need to worry about anything. And this is also basically initiator of the connection to your database. So let's go back and let's paste this, basically the entry point of any Prisma communication. Let's save this, and let's go back to our next.ts file. So first of all, here we need to do some other configuration. So we need to first of all set up the Prisma adapter, because we want NextAuth to interact with Prisma to save or update data into our SQLite database. So we're going to do export const adapter. We're going to export this because we might need it somewhere else, but if you feel that you won't need it anywhere, feel free to just ignore it, but I'm pretty sure I have used it somewhere. So Prisma adapter, and we're going to pass in Prisma here, which we have exported from the prisma.ts file. Now we can simply give it a type so that it's easier for us to code here because of autocomplete. So auth options, and now we can simply have configuration here. So we don't need this command, we can just remove this. The first thing we need to provide is an adapter, and we already have it above, so we can just pass it like this. Then we need to pass in a strategy. The default strategy is a database strategy. All the user sessions are persisted in the database, but we also wanted to use JSON web tokens. I believe I also have a video on JSON web tokens, so you can also watch it. But I think that JWT is a pretty good strategy. You can change it if you want to, but I'm going to use it. So session strategy JWT. And for any JWT strategy, we need to have a secret that helps us encrypt the last part of the JWT, that allows us to verify it in the front end that it's really sent from the backend. So how do we create that secret? The most easy way is using a command, which I'm going to show you right now. So let's go back to a terminal, and let's cancel this. We don't need Prisma Studio for now. Let's paste this. So if you're using Linux based system, you should already have this, and let's copy this entire piece of text which can be used as a secret, and we're just going to go here and we're going to say NextAuth secret, So this name should be NextAuth secret. You cannot have it as anything else. But if you really want to have some other name, you can simply put in an environment variable, and then you can have it like this. You can have process.env.nextAuth secret or anything, or any name you have provided. But if you have it as a NextAuth secret, you don't need to provide the secret option here. So now we also have the strategy as GWT. Now we can have the Google provider. So first of all, we need to import the Google provider because for some reason autocomplete doesn't work. So import Google provider from NextAuth /provider /Google. And now we can use the Google. I hope it's not throwing an error. Yeah, it's just my system being slow. So we can just simply go here and say Google provider, and we can have few options here. I would really appreciate that if this would complete loading and I could move forward with this process. I'm just speechless that this MacBook cannot process this much task. Okay, I'm pretty sure that it's done. Now we can have client ID. We can have process.env.google client ID, and same for secret. So client secret. We're just going to copy this Google secret, and now we have some errors which says that it might be undefined, but we know that it's not undefined, so we're just going to provide an exclamation mark. We know it's not undefined. So yeah, for Google provider, basically this is all the configuration you need to do. As long as you have the adapter, the Google provider will do everything, and it will automatically store all the authenticated users in the database and keep a track of them. If you don't use an adapter, it won't do that, but you don't need to do any additional configuration here. The configuration you need to do is in credentials provider, where you have credentials like username, password, or email password. In this we are going to use email password. So let's set that up. Before we create any UI, I think we should get done with all the configurations. So let's import the credentials providers first. So let's just copy this. I'm so bad at selecting text. So this is going to be credentials provider, and this is going to be credentials. Yeah, this time it loaded fast. The second provider we are going to have is credentials provider, and we can have multiple credential provider. You can also have multiple Google provider, and you can just provide different IDs to it, like we are going to do right now. So we need to provide an ID to it because we are going to have multiple of them. So this one is going to be signup, because first, before we even sign in, we need to create an account. So this is going to be signup. And now we need to specify what credentials we are going to gather from the user. So I forgot to give a comma here. So credentials, and we are going to have, first of all, we are going to ask for email. If you have any different type of credentials, feel free to add that, but we are going to accept email, password, and name in this tutorial. So I think that I'm just going to copy and paste it. It's going to take a lot of time if I'm just going to type it out, and I respect your time. You can simply look at it. I know TypeScript is throwing a lot of error because we need to have a function at the end, but ignore the errors for now. We are going to fix it. So in the credentials, first thing we need to have is the email. We are going to show what the label is going to be, because NextAuth also has its own UI for authenticating users, but we are going to use our own UI. So just ignore that. But the type is important. We are going to have it as email. We are also going to have a password, and we are also going to have it for name. For name, it's going to be type text, and for password, it's going to be type password. As long as you mention all the fields you're accepting from the user, you should be fine. And now we are just going to eradicate why it is showing us all the errors. So the next thing we need is async function authorize. I know this video is going super long, but Just bear with me, I guess. It should not be async function, it just should be async authorized, because yeah, credentials and request. We don't really need the request, but we just have it just in case. So I'm going to speed run through it right now. So first of all, we are going to have this line of code. We are going to check if the user exists. So the adapter is basically a good way of generalizing how we fetch users. So no matter what database you have, you can fetch user just using the adapter, and it does all the hard work behind the scenes. So we can just do adapter get user by email, and we can just pass in the email we have in the credentials. So if any user is found, we're just going to throw a new error, and this text is what we are going to see as an error in the front end. So yeah, and now if there is no error, we have no reason to stop the user from creating an account. So the next thing we do is hash a password. So we need to import bcrypt here. So let's do that first, and then I'm going to explore what's happening. Import bcrypt from bcrypt. So here we are going to create we are going to hash the password which we have gotten to the form, and then we are going to create a new user using adapter.createUser, and we are going to have email, the email verified null. If you have any email verification techniques, you can have that, feel free to do that, but we don't have one. So yeah, so by this one we are going to create a new user. We cannot store password using adapter.createUser. We need to use Prisma client to do that. So the next thing we are going to use is we are going to create a new account. So this just creates the profile. So profile is different from account. A profile can have multiple accounts. So a profile can have a Google account, it can also have a credentials account, and so on. But this only creates a user or a profile, and now we're going to create an account for our credentials provider. So we are going to have the data user ID. That should be the new user.id, the profile ID. The provider account ID should be new user.id because it's the same platform. We are not getting anything from other platforms. So the type should be credentials, provider should be credentials, and the password should be hash password. You can just modify anything you want to here. And if there is some problem interacting with the database, we just throw a new error, unable to create a new user at this time, and that should throw the new error. And now that everything is done, we can just sign in. We can just do return new user, and the NextAuth will do its magic and sign in the user and set up everything that it magically works in your front end. Now that is done, we just need to have the sign in one, and sign in one should be pretty easy now that we have everything set up. So I'm going to paste everything here, and we are not going to go into depth about every single thing. We are just going to see at the most important parts how it works. So basically, I forgot to tell you that every time there must be a user object returned. If you don't return it, this function will bug out and it will just throw errors. It's very important. So either you return null for unsuccessful login attempts, either you throw an error, or either you pass in a profile object. Make sure there is no sensitive data as password or some stuff in the profile itself. It can be in the accounts, but not in the profile. So the next credential provider will have the sign in ID. We are just going to accept email and password, and then we're just going to get user by email. If there is no user with that email, we are just going to pass in incorrect credentials provided. Then we are going to fetch the password which is saved, and we are going to compare. Then we are also going to see if the password is provided through the input or not. Then we are going to compare the password which was provided through the input and the password which is saved in the database. If both are same, that means if the password is correct, we are going to successfully authenticate the user, and we are going to return the user profile, or else we are going to throw error that incorrect credentials provided. And that's all for this file, and now all we need to do is focus on the front end and forget about the configuration, and everything will be managed by NextAuth itself. Now let's create a new sign up page. So in the pages folder, we are going to create a new file which is called signup.tsx, and I'm going to speed run everything again. So just do RFC to create a new component. We are going to have it as signup. Yeah, I think signup should be a good name. And we are basically going to replace it with a UI, and I'm not going to explain the UI a lot. The UI we're going to use is generated by AI. So if you want to see how I did it, I think I've already said it. You can just watch my previous video. So before we do anything, we need to have 3 states which will manage track of 3 text boxes. So these are going to be email, password, and name, and we are going to use this to keep track of a text boxes. And then we need a sign up function which can be triggered with a button through the UI. So what this sign up function does is it invokes the sign in function from NextAuth. So we are just going to import it from the React package, NextAuth React package, and then we're going to await sign in, and we're going to provide the ID of the provider which we are trying to use, and the one which we are trying to use is sign up. It's credentials provided, and the credentials provider and the ID we provided here was sign up, and that's what we are going to use here. And then we are going to pass in the credentials, email, password, name, and we are also providing a new option, redirect false, so that it means that all the errors which we get will be displayed in the same page, and we're just going to tell him that we are going to handle the redirection ourselves, and the NextAuth doesn't need to redirect and redirect to its own UI page where it shows errors and stuff. We are going to handle it ourselves. Then we're going to have a check that if there is some problem, if the OK is false, then we're going to return a new alert, and the alert would be a pop-up box which will have the error which comes from the throw new errors we have had here. So the text in here will be alerted out in the text box, and then we're going to redirect the user on the dashboard. So this is how this function works, and now we are going to have basically an entire UI. So I'm going to copy the entire UI, and then we're going to look at what are the key parts in it. So let me copy it, let's paste it here, let's save it. This uses Tailwind CSS, by the way, and let's import the link from Next.js. Okay, so basically this is just going to have name, email, and password mapped to the states. So set email, set name, and set passwords, basically the states we created first. And then we're going to have a button here that will invoke the sign up function. So this should basically be sign up, and this will invoke the sign up function. So let's go back to Edge and see how this looks. So let's go to localhost 3000/sign up. Okay, so we really don't have the server started yet. So npm run dev. We are so long into the video and we haven't started the dev server yet. Let's reload this page. By the way, I just noticed there is Next.js 14 here. I'm going to create a new video on Next.js 14. So stay tuned for that. And we don't see basically anything because we need to reset the styles here. So we just go to styles, globals.css, and we just reset everything here, and we just leave Tailwind based styles. Let's go back to Edge, and yeah, everything should be fine. And now if you try to sign up, it will work. But what I want you to first show here, that we need to add one more thing here, is a get server side props. We want to check server side if the user is authenticated or not, and if the user is not authenticated, if the user is actually authenticated, they should not see this page at all. They should directly be redirected to the dashboard. So we are going to do it in the get server side props. If you're familiar with Next.js, you will know this function. This function runs in the server side, and basically you can do anything before the page loads. So we are just going to do auto imports here. So NextAuth provides this function called as get server session. You can it's loading for whatever reason. You can just pass in the request response and the auth options, which is for whatever reason still loading here. It should be instant. And if there is a session, if the session is valid, we are just going to redirect to dashboard, and if not, we are just going to return empty props. So yeah, I'm just going to wait for this to load, if it could load today. Yeah, thank you so much. Let's save this. Now let's go back to Edge and let's try to sign up here. So the name will be test user. Oh wait, it's the first user. So first user, first at user.com, and the password will be 1234. Let's sign up, and we are at dashboard. We are getting 404 because we don't have a dashboard yet, but we are going to create one. So let's go back here and let's do pnpm Prisma Studio, and let's check our database here. So we have user ID, we have credential, and we also have a lot of details about it. We also have the hashed password stored, and we also have the user. So the user is first at user.com, the name is first user. So basically everything is being saved into the database. Now we can just go back, and what I wanted to show, like if we go to sign up page again, the server side props will work, and we won't even see that page again because we will be redirected instantly server side to dashboard. So yeah, now the question is, how do we log out without any buttons? So you just go to the application tab in your DevTools and just delete all the cookies, and go to local storage and delete all the local storage, and that should do its work. And let's go back to sign up, and basically we are logged out and we should see this page again. So that's a quick hack if you are in development and if you want to log out, or basically want to reset the state of your entire website. Yeah, now we need the sign in page. So let's go to here, and we're just going to have it in the index.tsx file. We are going to remove everything here. We don't, you know what, I'm just going to remove everything. We're just going to have RFC, and this is going to be home component. And now let me see, we are going to have two states here to keep track of text boxes. These are going to be the email and password. Let's import it. Perfect. And then we are going to have a sign in with email and password. We are not going to have a separate function for Google because it hardly takes like few letters for that function, and we don't really need to have a separate function for it. So we are going to do the same stuff here. Instead, the ID is changed to sign in. In the signup.tsx file, we had the sign up ID, and here we are going to have the sign in. So this will route to the proper credentials provider, and here we are just going to pass the email and password and not the name. It's the same thing, and we are just going to have the UI elements here. So let me just copy it real quick and paste it here. So everything should work. We just need to auto import the link, and we are just keeping track of everything. We are going to have sign in with email and password whenever we click on the login button, and for the Google button we don't need to do anything because the provider is already set up by NextAuth, and it made our jobs a lot easier. We just say sign in and we just say so Google. No additional configuration. All the configuration we had was here. Client ID and client secret, that's all. We don't need to do anything else. So let's save this, and we can go back to our Edge and we can just check out here. Oh, it's index, right? We are going to try out login with Google at last because I want to show you the proper consent screen and it redirecting back to dashboard. But let's try out logging it with first user we created. First at user.com, the password was 1234. Let's log in, and yeah, we are redirected to dashboard. Let's remove everything. Let's remove all the cookies. Let's go back to sign in. Let's try to first at user.com. Let's provide incorrect password. So I'm just going to type some random stuff and log in, and it says incorrect credentials provided. So mission successful. Now Google works, but we are not going to do it right now. So let's go and create our dashboard. This is going to be the most easiest part because basically our dashboard is going to have only one functionality, that is logging out the user. In production scenarios, you might have a lot more complex and your dashboard might be the most difficult thing ever. So let's go here. I'm going to create a new file, dashboard.tsx, and here we're going to have a new component again, and I'm going to copy most of the stuff here again. So let's copy this and paste this, but we need something here. We are going to use hooks provided by NextAuth. So what is this data? That is basically data of the user. So we are going to do const data. So the use session hook by NextAuth provides us, we don't need the error, provides us with the data of the user. Now this will contain all the profile data we returned. So if we go back here, if we see here what we returned, so we used to return the user every time, and this is the data we will get here. In case of Google provided, it's basically the same data that they are returning. So we are going to get this data, and basically we are going to have a sign out function. Again, redirect should be false, and we're just going to this is going to be an async function, and whenever the redirect is whenever the sign out is done, we're just going to redirect back to home page. And again, we don't want anyone to access our dashboard, right? We need to have some sort of authentication. We are creating this video, we are using NextAuth because we want authentication. We don't want any random creep using a website or stealing other people's data. So I think that we should protect our pages in a more proper way. I don't know why I said all of that, but in this get server side props, we are again getting the user session. We are checking if there is no session, if the user is not authenticated to see this, which is going to redirect back to the login page, basically saying that, hey, you need to be authenticated, you cannot just steal data of others users. So yeah, now let's go back to Edge and let's try to logging in using first user. So first add user.com 1234, let's log in, and we should be in our dashboard. So welcome first user. So it also fetched our name and it also fetched our username. Let's log out. Now here's the layer test. Can we access dashboard if we are logged out? No, it redirects back to the login page. Now we are going to use login with Google finally. So let's click on login with Google. Let's select a Google account. Okay, something is definitely wrong. It should basically work, right? We don't have we don't have a get server side props here. So yeah, as I said, we need to check authentication states very carefully in every single page we have. There might be a better way of doing this, but for just a tutorial video, I guess this is fine. Let's just auto import stuff. We are basically just doing the same thing. If there is any session found, we are just going to redirect to the dashboard. Let's go back to Edge. Let's do login with Google, and this time we should be redirected to the dashboard. It fetched the name of my Google account and also fetched my email of the Google account. So if you're using anything else like Discord and stuff, it might fetch your username and stuff, but not basically the name. Or if you're using Facebook, everything will be the same. So let's log out. And yeah, it's working. So you finally have NextAuth set up in your Next.js application. So yeah, that's it for this video. I know this has been a super duper long video, but I have aimed to provide a lot of value to you. And if you think that you have received value to this from this video, make sure you click the like button and let me know in the comments that what helped you a lot and where were you stuck while setting out NextAuth, or what brought you to this video. Was it just out of curiosity, or were you stuck in NextAuth and did it really help you? If this video really helped you, I would really appreciate if you also click the subscribe button. It really helps my channel a lot. It gives a boost to the algorithm, and subscribing is free. If you really don't want my content in the future, you can always click unsubscribe at any time and I won't mind. Yeah, I think that's it for this video. If you have any content suggestions, or if you have any suggestions in the format of the video or anything in general, feel free to leave it in the comments below. I also have my socials in the description, so you can try to contact me directly and I will respond to you. And yeah, that's it for this video. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.